Hello, we're at the International Payments Summit 2013 in London, and with me is Professor Stephane Garelli of the IMD Business School in Switzerland. Professor Garelli is going to be talking to the audience about the outlook for the world economy, of which there are a lot of questions around at the moment. What are you going to be telling later on?
Well, actually, it's changing every day almost. I think that what I will say that it is still a global economy, but it is more and more fragmented. What we are seeing today is some countries are doing relatively well, like China and India, etc. And other countries are really in recession, like the south part of Europe. Some countries are risking inflation, like Russia, India. Some countries are risking deflation, like Japan and Switzerland. So basically, it's still global, but it goes into every direction, which means that the business model has to be much more flexible than ever. We are not anymore in a situation of one model fits everything. So global, but fragmented.
That's interesting. Traditionally, people have viewed things in quite long economic cycles, but it's rapidly changing.
It's changing very rapidly. The tipping points are a bit everywhere. I think it's very difficult to forecast anything at that stage. Most probably, I think that the US is in a better shape than most other countries. China is still okay. I mean, people are complaining because China is growing 8.2%. It's not 9%, but frankly, you and I, we would take 8.2% tomorrow, right?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, frankly speaking, I think this is good. The real issue is Europe, problem of governance, problem of debt. And what I will say that no matter how quickly we implement some reform or austerity measures, the debt issue is going to be with us for many more years. It's not going to disappear overnight.
And the US, the big question has been the fiscal cliff.
Yeah, that's right, the fiscal cliff. But even if the US is taking all the measures they have to take, the forecast is in 5 years, they still have more than 100% of the GDP in debt. So actually, it's going to be there. But I think the big revolution in the US, I will mention, is of course on the energy side. Because on the energy side, the fact that you have now much more reserve of gas, which are being discovered with new techniques, much more reserve of oil. The forecast is that in 2015, the US will produce more gas than Russia. And in 2020, the US will produce more oil than Saudi Arabia, which is 12 million barrels a day. So this is going to change completely the picture of competitiveness, because it means that companies in the US will enjoy very cheap energy, probably half the price of that we see in Europe. Maybe it will have geopolitical consequences because, those part of the world producing oil may be less interesting for the United States.
That's a very interesting thought. So they may fall off a cliff, but they'll have a soft landing.
Exactly. They will have probably a much better soft landing than we will have in Europe, all Europe. I think that China, Asia, and Latin America will perform relatively well. I think what we are going to see there is that they are going to use the money in a very different way, most probably to finance the globalization of the national companies. And one of the things I'm saying is that we are seeing more and more new competitors, new brand names on the market. Take one, Haier in China has become last year the largest household appliance company in the world, passing over Whirlpool in the US. 10 years ago, nobody had heard about Haier. And I think we have a lot of new brands, not only in companies, but also in the financial sectors. And this is changing really the face of competitiveness.
So for the payments and transaction banking people at this conference, there's a lot of challenges in there. There's the rapidly changing environment, but also changing trade flows in terms of how they service.
Yeah, exactly. I think that a lot of the trade flows which used to go from the US and Europe elsewhere are coming from elsewhere to the US and Europe. So I think this is very different. I think we are seeing a lot of companies which we didn't know about. So new names, new partners, which is good, Sometimes new competitors, which is less good. So I think it's not a cozy environment anymore. It's one where you have to probably reformat your approach, and where probably also the old good techniques are not applicable anymore. So it's changing very quickly.
And you seem quite optimistic though about this. You don't seem to see this as a reason for pessimism.
No, I think that there is a lot of opportunities, and the world is much larger than it has ever been. You have much more. If you take the emerging market, we have now 1,000 companies which have more than $1 billion in turnover, in revenues. So these are customers. So these are opportunities. It's just that we have to learn to work in a different way. That's it.
Excellent. It's always nice to hear good news from an economist.
Yeah, it's unusual, I agree.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.